What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? For the sixth time in 8 weeks, it's another Victory Tuesday edition of Rambling with Rio. So, I got to bring my guy, Lake Lewis Jr., on to talk about one of the biggest moments, probably the biggest moment of my fan life thus far. How you doing today, Lake?
Man, I'm on cloud nine still, man. Life is good when the team that you cover wins football games, and especially like that.
Whether you're a fan, whether you're the media, this makes all of our jobs and personal lives better. What a way to win a football game. 18-15 on the heroics and magic of Jayden Daniels' 52-yard Hail Mary to Noah Brown. We're not going to waste no time today. Lake, set the scene. Give me the vibes from Northwest Stadium and in the media press box.
Man, it's funny because, right before it happened, Scott Abraham, myself, I do post game with him for ABC.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just like, we're going to head on down, blah, blah, blah. And it had kind of gotten a little somber in the press box just because, we all felt like Washington they outplayed Chicago. They really did.
They did.
Well, when that play happened, it was almost like, it gets so loud, it's quiet. That's how loud it was. And I know I shouldn't be saying this because we're not supposed to cheer in the press box, but screw that, man. I mean, when you've been covering this team as long as I have and you've seen nothing but gloom and doom, it was an exhale, man. It was like, are you kidding me? Did I just see that? Even the Bears media was just in shock as well. So it was just, and then to see the crowd, we could see out and see what was happening in the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And it got you kind of choked up, man. It really did, because this fan base, you guys have been suffering for so long. And if you're a younger cat like you are, Rio, you've never seen the good old days. I'm old enough to remember all of that vividly.
Mm-hmm.
And, it made for great Friday and Saturday nights leading up to Sundays.
It sure did.
And now to be able to witness the fans and a lot of the younger generation be able to experience this and know that this is sustainable. This isn't going anywhere anytime soon, because number 5 is a generational talent, and he proved that.
Oh, man, a transcendent talent indeed. When you have one of those guys, magic happen. In basketball, when you have a Jordan, a LeBron, a Kobe, a Steph Curry. In football, when you have a Brady, a Mahomes, a Manning, a Breeze, a Rodgers. Rodgers hit 4 of these in his career. It happens to those guys. Those special guys just carry something with them that allows plays like that to take place. What a magical moment. I don't want to hear about luck or none of that, because every champion needs a little bit of luck at some point anyway. It was like we reversed the karma of the last 25 years. I don't want to hear nothing about Dan Snyder. I don't want to hear nothing about the predecessors to Dan Quinn and Adam Peters. I don't want to hear nothing about cursed black uniforms. It's all gone now. It is all gone now. Anything is possible for this team. Wow, that was incredible, man.
Yeah, I couldn't wait to get on here with you today, because, you've been supportive of this team through hell and back, and I want to shout you out because, having met you as a fan, you being a fan, and now you're kind of in my realm now, you know what I'm saying? It's just, I go back into your realm for this because I'm from DC, man. I'm born and raised, and just to be in the DMV my whole life, obviously professionally I had to move to Florida, but I think of the times, man, just how this used to be the norm, the way the stadium was rocking, that used to be the norm at RFK. So it's good to finally be able to put those memories to bed, because this new team is getting ready to create a lot of new lasting memories for a lot of fans. And, the difference is when you said, those things don't happen to us. Well, it will happen now, because again, when you have one of those alphas, one of those true elites,
yep.
People ride for you. They know that you're going to be there at the end of the game. At the end of the day, they know that they always have a chance. And if you thought, listen, man, just not to stray here, but we talked about the legend of Jayden and how if he were to play with the Reds and they could get a win, it would cement the Rookie of the Year, and also it would cement his lure here, his legend. Well, it's beyond that now. because they didn't just win the game. It's the way they won the game. And you can call it luck all you want, but that was a drafted, crafted play for them to be able to have him run around with enough time for his receivers to get down and be in position. And I don't know if they've had a quarterback in the last 20 years that could have thrown the ball that far or do what he did to sustain those 12, 13 seconds to be able to throw the football. That's an elite alpha dog right there doing that.
Yeah, he's like a mythological superhero right now. He scrambles around for about 37 yards. He's running around for 12 and a half seconds and lets it fly. For those saying any quarterback can make that throw,
No.
I watched the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Jalen Hurts made that same throw and the ball died at the 20-yard line. Every quarterback is not making that throw. So call my quarterback skinny all you want to. Talk about his bruised ribs. Say whatever you like. That boy launched that ball 66 yards in the air. It landed at the 1 and got tipped into the end zone. I don't want to hear nothing about arm talent ever questioned about Jayden Daniels ever again.
Ever. And you know what, Rio? You know, people keep joking about the bruised ribs and all. Only thing bruised is Bears fans because listen, man, they were up in that stadium hooping and hollering. And it came kind of late because they were real quiet for most of the game. And, you know, I can't be biased. You know, I am NFL media. But I can say, man, poetic justice was served. You know, the kid Stevenson, I hate that he's taking all this abuse and criticism, but he brought it on himself, you know, being an ass out on the field. I came back and bit him. So, you know, as far as the hype of the game, you know, do you feel like it lived up to Caleb and Jayden? Do you feel like it lived up to the hype or did it supersede it in your opinion?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. It only lived up to the hype because of 5. And I like Caleb Williams a lot. Big fan of Caleb Williams. Joe Witt Jr. had Caleb Williams in the Matrix for 49 minutes. He had him lost in the Matrix. Caleb Williams completed 10 passes for 130 yards in his homecoming on Sunday.
Three of those passes were chunk plays too. 17 to Keenan Allen. I think Keenan had another one on the scramble for like another 18, 19. So, I mean, those three of those out of those 10 were chunk plays that were off schedule plays. So it wasn't even part of their scripted offense. I think if anybody walked away from this football game thinking that Jayden did not look like the superior quarterback on the field,
they're lying.
Jayden was the best player on the field again. And how many times have you and I said this? If he's no worse than number 2 on the field, you have a chance to win the game. If he's the best player on the field, which he's been a lot, you're going to win football games. Hence, they're 6-2 atop of the NFC East.
There was a clear distinction and a clear gap between the development of the two quarterbacks so far, because while you see that Washington only had 12 points up and we scored 18 for the game versus a good Bears defense, we skated up and down the field on them all day long. It was like a repeat of the Giants game. That offense, that defense had not given up, 300 yards yet this season. Washington puts up 490 yards of offense on those guys. Jayden put 3 balls in the end
by himself. Jayden had 4 by himself. Again, how good was that Bears defense really? Because you're right. Yeah, you can give them credit and say they held strong in the red zone, but we lived in the red zone. And
self-inflicted mistakes.
Defense, you struggled across midfield. Well, no, this was more on what Washington didn't do, because I'm sitting there telling people, some of my colleagues in the press box, you know, at halftime, I'm like, this game should be like 20-0 right now, 23-0. They left a lot of points on the board, and you and I both were smart enough to realize it was going to come back. It could come back and haunt you. Fortunately, they pulled one out.
In true Washington fashion, when you play with your food for too long, bad things happen at some point. But I'll shoot the offense a bone. When you're averaging 29.5 points a game, you're allowed to have rough weeks where you're not executing in the red zone. It happened versus the Giants, and it happened on Sunday. Jayden throws a beautiful ball to Zach Ertz. Should have been a touchdown, didn't come down with the ball. He throws another touchdown to Olamide Zaccheaus on a screen pass that would have ended the game. Let's call it a buck. That game is over if that touchdown counts. Self-inflicted. wounds, penalties, drop passes. Jayden was electrifying on Sunday. Nothing changed about his game. He still ran. He still. Did you see that throw that boy made when Montez Sweat was coming at him in the corner to Luke McCaffrey?
Yeah, man. That's I don't know if there's 5 quarterbacks in the NFL that can make that throw under that circumstances. I mean,
Disgusting.
Again, for everyone that keeps saying, "Oh, he's a running quarterback," yeah, he is. He can run. He can run with the best of them. I
That's
think
right.
the only one better is Lamar at running, but he also can throw the football with the best of them, and he does have an eerily similar fluidity to his game as far as just from a passing standpoint, not running. The pass, it does look a little bit like young Aaron Rodgers to me.
It's gorgeous, man.
It really does. And everyone knows what they say about Aaron, but I'm going to tell you the difference between the two. And I don't mind saying it. I might take heat for saying it. Jayden has superior leadership qualities that I don't think Aaron's ever had. And that's just, 20 years in the league, 1 Super Bowl, and you might be one of the greatest arm talents in history. That with some good teams, that's not getting it done. Jayden is ascending rapidly, and it's scary for people outside of the DMV now because they see what's going on. They know that this isn't a fluke. They know that this bus is not pulling over on the side of the road. It's going to keep going to gas stations and gassing up and keep the destination going. And I think for Jayden, if he's not an MVP candidate, I don't know what he is. He's already got the Rookie of the Year award.
That's done. Send us the trophy.
The final chisel into that trophy was done at Northwest Stadium after the game. Okay. But those type of plays, those type of victories, and you have some very winnable games coming up. This thing doesn't look like it's going to slow down. And if he takes this team to the playoffs and they, let's just say, win the division, and I said 9 wins bare minimum they were good for. Well, they're probably at like 10 or 11, maybe even more, the way this is going. If that does happen, Rio, I'm telling you, man, he's going to be a legit contender for the MVP. Dan Quinn could be Coach of the Year. Adam Peters, Executive of the Year. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. They're going to have to Play of the Year in sports. I mean, it's a lot of awards that are going to be coming out of town.
Yesterday, I posted on my story a picture of Michael Jackson when he had the 9 Grammys in his hand. I said, that's Washington and NFL honors, because all those awards you just named, throw in Assistant Coach of the Year, Cliff Kingsbury is going to be up there. If that defense keep balling, Joe Witt may be making a contender. We're going to talk about the defense in just a second, but to keep harping on Jayden for just a few more minutes, there was just such a clear gap. Jayden had like 8 highlight moments in this game. This dude hurdled a guy chasing him from behind. I've never seen someone with the instincts to feel someone going for their legs from behind. He hurdled a guy chasing him from behind. He's layering balls all over the field. He dropped the ball to Zach Ertz in between 4 Chicago Bears players. He knows the soft spots in the zone. He could throw it to the honey hole. He could throw it on the run. He could throw it stationary. This guy processes like he has like Breeze-like processing skill. It's so weird to see a rookie this calm, because my favorite thing about him through 8 weeks of football, everything is intentional. Even the incompletions, there's a story for it, and you know exactly what he was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, and you can see now too that when he runs, he's running towards the sidelines to see. I mean, he's going to turn one up on somebody soon, but he's being smart, and for all of the people out there talking about, oh, I want to see him slide more. You did see Drake May slide, right? And you saw what happened to him.
Yep.
Out of the game.
Knocked out.
Let this man do what he does, because that's what makes him so special. And that's the only word that you hear when people describe Jayden now. He's special. You haven't seen this before. And I've been going back to, I'm going to keep beating on this table saying it. I told you so. I told everyone what I was seeing in camp, going back to rookie mini camp, to training camp preseason. I've never seen, and this isn't the only team I've ever covered. I covered a Super Bowl team up the road years ago. I've never seen at the quarterback position a dual threat quarterback that's elite. He's elite in both categories. top of that, nothing phases him. He's always California cool
Mm-hmm.
all the time. I mean, this thing is remarkable, and it's just so fitting that Washington, after years of hell,
Mm-hmm.
finally get a chance to see what heaven is like just a little bit on the field.
Yep, sure is, man. And that Hail Mary play, it didn't define his full performance, but it's definitely jumped up to number one on my favorite best fan moment of my life. See, my top three is number three is Santana Moss with the two touchdowns from Brunell in 2005 versus the Cowboys on Monday Night Football, the Monday Night Miracle. Number two was RG3's run versus the Minnesota Vikings, the electrifying 76-yard scamper up the left sideline. But this one, I'm going to remember it forever because my son was with me on Sunday. He was on stream watching it with me, and we went crazy. He's sitting there like, Papa, stop giving up. There's still 19 seconds. I'm like, son, you got to watch more ball, son. The probability of us winning does not exist. Like, Papa, I told you
you,
after the Hail
you,
Mary, man.
you know what's funny about that is, so I had my presenting sponsor, the owner, Dr.
Mm-hmm.
George Garbus, Thermal Pack, shout them out. I got to, from my pod, and I had him on yesterday, and he was at the game with his kids,
Mm-hmm.
and he was trying to tell them, when it looked like it was done after Chicago scored, let's leave to beat the crowd.
Beat the
And
traffic.
his son told him, but we have Jayden. And he literally, I mean, this is a season ticket holder for years.
Mm-hmm.
He told me, he was just like, what are the chances? But I'll stay for them because, they don't come to games all the time. And he sent me the video. It's on my pod. You can watch his kids going absolutely crazy when they scored. If you said your son said that and his son said that, that's showing you that the new younger generation of
Mm-hmm.
these fans, they're going to be Jayden Daniels fans for life. Like,
Yep.
this is going to be their new, Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. This kid has that kind of cachet to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry if you're not a Commanders fan and you don't like hearing this kind of talk and rhetoric because you think we're blowing smoke. No, we're not. And we're not too. You're hearing the same thing nationally that we talk about here locally.
That star power there is different. Jayden Daniels done made my son fall in love with the sport of football, and that brought water to my eyes witnessing it on Sunday. But moving on to some other parts of the offensive performance before we slide over to a dominant defensive performance outside the last 9 minutes of the game. Terry McLaurin is looking like that top 7 to 10 receiver that we said we wanted to see.
Man, listen, and we give credit where credit is due. We know what an elite receiver looks like. And you know what? Not only is Terry moving into that category because he's got a quarterback that can make him look good, but Terry's playing with that ultimate chip on his shoulder. The way he was going back at it with Stevenson, that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Like,
I love that.
He knows, maybe in years past, man, I won't even be able to get the ball because my quarterbacks won't get me the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But now he knows number 5 gonna get me the ball. So you in trouble. You keep talking, it's coming. The only thing I want Terry to do, and I'm gonna tell him tomorrow at practice, man, you work on that high step, man, because that 61-yarder,
we got to get that to the crib. We got to get that to the crib, Terry.
House, Terry. That's my guy, though. Take it to the house. But you know what? He did that after dropping a pass, a hands catch, we know, but he made up for it, and that's the type of player that he is. Man, I'm telling you, the way his game is ascending even higher now, and then the fact that you have Noah Brown, I don't think this team needs to go out and look for a wide receiver. I don't want them to disrupt anything. That offense is humming, man. You don't have to mess with it. You just, you let Terry keep eating and let Jayden feed him the ball, and you got your true one now.
That boy Terry, he's eating right now. We do got to figure out how to get guys into the end zone once they catch it. But as long as he's securing the catch, I'm cool with it. The 5 to 17 deep ball connection is looking like Magic Johnson to Kareem right now. It's easy. It's easy. Terry's getting the ball in stride. Jayden's deep ball is a thing of beauty. Remember week 1 when they
Oh,
told us
I
that?
was just about to say it. I was just about to say that. Go
Mhm.
ahead with it. Go ahead with
Yeah,
it.
remember week 1 they told us Jayden can't throw the ball down the field. He don't got no connection with 17. Where did that talk go?
Listen, man, if you know ball, you know that's one of the first things that jumped off the tape
In
about
college.
Jayden Daniels in
Mhm.
college was the deep ball. More than anything, I don't even know if they threw underneath routes at
They just
LSU. It was deep to Neighbors and Brian Thomas the whole time. Well, you knew in that first game. I mean, look, man, it was his first game,
Mhm.
but you could see that it was there. They just needed to connect on it. I'm telling you, man, it's only going to get better. The more these guys continue to play with each other, it's going to become more second nature at this point, where guys can break their routes off or extend plays because they know that this guy's always capable of extending a play, playing Houdini, and getting you to football. And Terry's benefiting from it big time right now.
Definitely. And my final thing on Jayden, I promise y'all, we're going to talk about other players too. My final thing on Jayden before we talk about that Tank B-Rob, number 8, who's having a season this year. Did you see the difference between Caleb and Jayden in temperament? Like Jayden, even when they were sacking him, even when Noah Brown's dropping passes or Zach Ertz is not coming down with the touchdown pass,
Yeah.
or even yep, he was cool, calm the whole time. He keeps it going. He'll give you a fist pump and he'll keep moving on to the next play. Caleb Williams looked like he was going through a midlife crisis out that shit on Sunday, man. He looked like he was going through it, boy.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because it was very noticeable. And not to knock the kid, he's a hometown kid, and you always want to pull for
It's
one
my
of our.
guy. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, like your quarterback can't be the signature of emotions. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady was fiery, would get on you if you were messing up, but he also was huge rah guy. And from my money, even after the game, the quick hug and boom, I'm out. I understand it was probably a torturous defeat the way it ended for them, but a lot of players stayed on the field afterwards to dap up their homies on the other side. Guys that they just battled with for 60 minutes. A lot of guys
Mm-hmm.
stayed out there and reveled in even in the moment because they knew that they were part of a classic too.
Yep.
But Caleb was first one off the field.
He got up out of there. He chucked
Got
the
about it
deuces up. Yep.
quick. And my thing is, that's sour grapes, man. There's no other way to put that. I don't want he's a competitor. Listen, LeBron took heat back in the day. You remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Team lost and he rolled out. And
Mm-hmm.
people were like, you can't be the face of this thing. And also,
Got to face the music, baby.
you got to face the music. And it was a
Mm-hmm.
great football game. Caleb showed a lot of moxie and guts at the end of the game to bring the Bears back. But, the bottom line is, let's call it like it is, Rio. When you talk about Jayden had people in the Matrix and Joe Witt and all this stuff, Jayden has Caleb in his Matrix right now.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb is like this, all this love, all this hype, all this just generational. He's great. He's doing history here.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb's like, that was supposed to be me.
Yep. And that's why
Caleb,
Bears fans are so damn insecure.
absolutely. For everybody now saying, well, Jayden has more to work with. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
I'm
What are
not
we
knocking Washington's players, but come on, man. Chicago went out of their way to bring in a potential Hall of Fame wide receiver in Keenan Allen. You have DJ Moore, who roasted Washington last year. He's a Pro Bowler. You have
Doomsday.
Doomsday, a top 10 wide receiver.
Cole
Cole
Kmet.
Pro Bowl tight end. You bring in DeAndre Swift. I mean, listen, if anyone's thinking that talent that I just named is second fiddle to Washington's talent, no, you're missing it. What you're missing is this team's quarterback's elevating the play of his talent,
Sure
and his
is.
coordinator is better than your offensive coordinator. Ain't no doubt about it. That's what's going on. But for Caleb, he's pissed right now that all this love is going to Jayden, and unfortunately, probably gonna have to get used to it because it's not going away.
Yeah, this it's all aboard the Jayden Daniels bandwagon at this point. Y'all are free to hop on at any point. Just don't hop off of it because this thing is moving full speed. See, the Chicago Bears fans, I've realized where their insecurity lies. They had the rollout, they had the album rollout of the Detroit Lions. You get the feel good story, you get Hard Knocks. You're supposed to be the media darlings of the league. You had the number one overall pick. But here comes Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. The NFL Twitter page is using us as the header. He's on top. He's on front of everything. He's probably going to be in every commercial you see sometime soon. And every
TD box soon.
Yep, he will. He will. He's on every talk show panel. Every former player, current player, everybody is talking about the guy. Meanwhile, Caleb, he's not getting that same love. And yes, he did have a couple good games versus the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Carolina Panthers, but clearly that scale of competition changed things. And we're about to talk about what Washington's defense did, but to close out the offensive side of the ball, there was a somber note to that game. We don't have a left tackle right now. Brandon Coleman missed with a concussion. Cornelius Lucas had to leave the game. Starting Trent Scott to protect Jayden Daniels' blind side. That's not exactly the most advantageous thing going on for this team right now. Talk to me.
It's not, but you know what though? The blessing in disguise, if you have to find a silver lining, is Cornelius was playing great football, best of his career, if you ask me. And so was Brandon. Brandon was coming on. You just can't escape the injury bug to get out there full time. Well, he's gonna have an opportunity now. And for my money, we know we haven't been at practice this week. We've been off yesterday and today, but tomorrow will be a telltale sign for me because I expect to see Brandon in New York playing. When we're up there this weekend, I expect for him to be the starting left tackle for this football team. And if he plays the way we all know he's capable of and how his trajectory was showing, they have their left tackle for the foreseeable future. So, this is kind of like a John Allen type thing where you and I said, now you're going to see Newton. Oh, by the way, we can talk about that, but yes, sir. This is what I expect from Brandon Coleman, too. I expect for Brandon Coleman to get in there at left tackle and never come out.
Wow. I love to hear it, man. We're about to talk about that boy, Johnny Newton, in just a second. Let me read a PFF grade before we get there. Jayden Daniels, 85.7 PFF grade is the fourth highest in the NFL. And since week 3, his 92 PFF grade is the highest in the NFL. I'm sorry, Chicago. Our boy gets busy. Our boy,
and that was at about 80%. Come on, man. Yep. Let's be real. Like, by the end of the game, you could tell it was coming because he took some hits. That's him not at 100%. And I'm not saying he was hurt. He obviously was good enough to play, which everybody in the NFL has heard about week 8. But that's not him at his full strength, and he still was better than 95% of the quarterbacks in the league. Come on, man.
We love to see it, man. We love to see it. That boy number 5 is different. So to close out the offensive side of the ball, I seen a lot of your colleagues falling for the okie doke. You knew Jayden was playing last week. Why was they? I mean, shout out to my boy Scott, but they was falling for the okie doke. I could hear the gamesmanship through Dan Quinn and Jayden last week.
Man, I couldn't believe that they were. Oh, he's not playing. And I mean, they all fam, Santana, that's my dude. And Santana said, why would you, risk it if he's hurt? And I'm like, bro, this is a dog. You think he gonna let Caleb come into his town now? He don't look at Caleb like Caleb's from here. This is Caleb's town. He's like, this is my town. And I'm not letting the number 1 pick. Naturally, he probably thought he should have been the number 1 pick. So come on, Rick. You knew he was playing, man. I mean, no doubt. Yeah, I called some folks, but yeah, he was playing, and I made sure everybody knew that he was playing. But the only way this guy doesn't hit the field going forward, man, is if it's a broken limb.
Or they medically say, okay, he has structural cartilage. If they give him a distinct injury, they're going to hold him out. They're not going to put him out there irresponsibly.
Not at all, because this organization is not set up like that anymore. They care about this kid as a man first, as a family person second. Dan Quinn and Peters and Josh Harris, It's a totally different setup. It's ultimate professional. I mean, hell, they don't even practice as long as they used to. We're out there for an hour, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want guys to be fresh, be able to be physical on Sundays and healthy. And so for my money, for them to be able to play Jayden, I'm gonna go back and just tell you like this. Jayden could have played against Carolina.
Yes, he could, and that's what I've been saying. If
He could
that
have played against
game
Carolina.
mattered, and we
I'm
had
telling y'all that.
if we had a better opponent, if we were playing for playoff seeding, he would have been his ass right back on the football field.
Yeah, so I keep telling people, man, when the throwing of the helmet wasn't because I'm hurt. It was because he hurt. They told him you're not coming back.
So if that was Jayden Daniels at 84%, not taking a live practice rep until Friday, coming off a shorter week with an injury, versus Caleb Williams coming off a bye, and he looked that much better. Chicago, y'all gonna have to explain yourself for this one, because we are
that analogy you just said, because brother, that's the one right there.
Mm-hmm.
You had a rusty Jayden, one practice Jayden.
Mm-hmm.
Still a little limp on there, with the ribs, bruised ribs, taking hits, being chased down, putting people face down in the dirt with moves, rusty. And your guy's coming off a bye.
A bye week.
And he still was better than Caleb. I'm listening. You got to just tell the truth sometimes. You there's nothing wrong with being honest. That's what you want to, but don't lie to me, because then I know you full of it.
Exactly.
And for these fans to be telling me, I mean, I'm gonna say it, Adam Rank. Like, are you kidding me, man?
Yeah, bullshit.
But are you kidding me? Don't tell me that Chicago dominated this game and came better. What? I mean, did you get that insight from Stevie Wonder? Because that's not what anybody saw. And I was sitting there. No way in hell did Caleb outperform Jayden. The numbers don't lie. Don't say, well, watch the game. No, the numbers don't lie. He was outperformed. Their whole football team was outperformed, and their coaches were outcoached. And that's why the better team won the game through a miracle, but they deserve that.
Whatever way you want to look at that game Sunday, Jayden was better than Caleb. You could take the Hail Mary away. You could take 100 yards away from Jayden's final numbers, and he still doubled the output of Caleb Williams on Sunday. The eye test was better. The body language and temperament was better. The performance, the execution, and the accuracy was better. There was a clear distinction.
So this is what we hear a lot too, Rio, now. People popping on my timeline, your timeline, saying stuff like, oh, well, how great was Jayden? They didn't even give him, they didn't even score. They had to kick field goals. DeAndre Swift had a 61-yarder or a 70-yarder.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the other touchdown?
Roshan Johnson at the 1-yard line.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, I didn't see that guy over there throwing darts in the end zone either. But guess what? Our guy was living in your side of the field the whole game. And our guy visibly was making your guys look really bad out in the open field. Caleb has some great runs. I'm not taking anything away from that. He was improvising out there and doing what he did all through college. But as far as sitting in that pocket, nah, man, he was not better than Jayden.
He was not in any aspect of the game. I'm watching Jayden jump over guys. I watched him make Edwards do the swag surf when he tried to get him in the backfield. But let's talk about Washington's defense, man. Caleb Williams was stuck. He was a glitch in the matrix for the entire day on Sunday. He was uncomfortable from the open snap. He had 33 yards midway through the third quarter of that football game. Our secondary balled out. Our linebackers balled out, and that defensive line looked like a well-oiled machine. The 27th ranked defense in this league made the Chicago Bears look like the Carolina Panthers for 49 and a half minutes on Sunday. And this is a Shane Waldron-led offense that had an extra week to prepare for Washington coming off their London game. Coming off a bye, that's how nasty that offense looked. And that's how prepared Joe Witt got this defense. Let's give Joe Witt Jr. his flowers late.
Man, listen, you got to give him credit, because out of this whole coaching staff, things have been clicking on the offensive side of the ball.
Mhm.
You can look at all the coaches on the offensive side of the ball, excuse me, and give them their flowers. But when you look at the work that's being done on the defensive side of the ball, Daryl Tapp, what they're doing with the
Mhm.
defensive linemen, rotating guys in because they've had injuries. Shout out to Ryan Kerrigan, who helps out with that. When you look at, Ken Norton Jr., with those linebackers and what he's doing, and then you look at what they're doing with their secondary,
Yep.
you see marked improvement each game. And you're seeing guys believe in the guy next to them, and
Mhm.
that communication issue isn't as bad as porous as it was the first 2-3 weeks of the season.
Yep.
And for my money, the last 4 games, Joe Witt might be just as valuable as a coordinator as Cliff Kingsbury,
Sure is.
because now you don't need your offense to hang 30 to win. They could have a game like they did the other day.
Went ugly.
They had 12 points until the Hail Mary,
Mhm.
but yet they still were able to win the football game.
Yep.
Against Baltimore, the offense didn't do a whole lot, and the defense couldn't stop Derrick Henry at the end. But for the
Mhm.
most part, they played off of each other. And
Yep.
I think that's the big key now, Rio, is that this defense allows the offense to not have to be perfect. And now the defense is taking over some football games. And for
Mhm.
everyone saying, oh, the defense did this against some bad teams, that Cardinals win doesn't look bad at all right
They
now.
in first place in the
First place,
NFC
playing
West.
for NFC West and ascending, not
Mhm.
there by mistake.
Mhm.
Okay. You look at what they did, obviously, with the Ravens. They were right there with one of the best teams in football. I know the Ravens lost to Cleveland. Oh, by the way, oops, did I just say that?
You
They
sure
lost
did.
to Cleveland. And guess what
Mhm.
Washington did to
Drummed
Cleveland?
them.
Basically, told them get out of that whenever you're ready. So
Mhm.
this is what I'm saying. They did it on Sunday to Chicago and Caleb, the number one pick, who hadn't thrown an interception in
Mhm.
7 games and blah, blah, blah. Well, he couldn't complete a pass this game.
Yep.
So you got to give credit where credit is due. And again, I keep telling people, it's okay, man. You are not being fooled. You're not being duped. This is not something where they're going to pull the sheet off and they're going to look different. This is a good football team. And this defense is now starting to feel like, man, we don't want to be the weak link to this bus, this
Yep.
train that's going, down the road. We want to be part of this. And if they keep playing, you've been saying play average football, and this team
Mhm.
is dangerous.
Yep.
Well, if you get above average football from this defense, which you've been getting the last 4 games,
Man,
come
they can get
on, man.
it can get spooky real fast because at some point the offense has put enough excellence and efficiency out there that they're allowed to have some off week. They didn't have an off week. They were just finding ways to not score in the red zone because
Yeah,
they
they
still did
still
what they needed to do. But this defense didn't allow Chicago to ever get a rhythm. Caleb Williams never looked comfortable at any point of the game. Even in the final 10 minutes where he made a couple throws finally, he had to work hard as hell to make those throws. He had to make them under constant fire. Frankie Louvu was stalking his shadow the entire day. Jalen Holmes just got here. He gets a sack. Deron Payne, he gets a sack. Johnny Newton, Jerzon Johnny Newton. Let me see. PFF grades. I don't always go by these PFF grades because I trust the eye test more than that. But Johnny Newton, 7 pressures on Sunday. That was first among all inside defensive linemen. He had a 31% win rate, first among all inside defensive linemen, and a 43.8 pressure rate. Once again, first among all inside defensive linemen. We've been telling them about Johnny all year, haven't we, Lake?
Man, who you remember who I said he reminded me of, like, just as far as how nimble of foot he is in his
Aaron
size?
Donald.
Aaron Donald. That's what
Mhm.
I saw. I saw that at Illinois,
Yep.
and I remember during the draft, people were like, Johnny Newton is one of those tackles that could be special depending on where he goes. And when Washington took him, I was like, oh, this is see you later, one of those tackles. You knew that.
Mhm.
Well, again, you don't wish injury on anyone, but
Never.
sometimes things happen. It opens the door for other people to do what? Johnny Newton is one of those guys, so a high energy, high motor guy.
Mhm.
He's not one of those guys you sub all the time. He's a guy that is just going to keep coming and coming, and ultimately he's going to get to you. So for him to do what he did, and if I'm not mistaken, recover the fumble,
Yep.
He
was scooting his ass down the field to return it too.
He was outrunning the D-backs down the field. You know what I mean? So I'm just happy for the kid. I remember, talking with him a couple weeks back in the locker room and just, told him don't rush himself to come back if he's not ready. And he said, I'm ready. And I didn't say this. I told him I wasn't going to say it at that time, but I'm going to say it now because it's weeks later. You know what he said, man? I said, I'm pulling for you, brother. He said, all I'm saying is you just watch.
Oh, that's a dog. That's a dog right there, man. We need dogs on this defense. Johnny Newton is a freaking dog, man. He was getting after it. He has a relentless motor, man. He doesn't stop until the whistle's blown, and his big ass is still coming. That boy is good. Him and Fadarian Mathis, I think we're fine next to Deron Payne, y'all.
Yeah, listen, Deron wants to be part of this now.
He's hooping.
You see that he's talking trash to people. Deron's just one of the nicest, just
smiling
guys he is. He's always smiling. He's like a big kid, man, but he's getting busy now, and I think he understands this is real, man. You can play, man. You got something here, and more importantly, that what you see with Fadarian and what you see with Jerzon is like, if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, I'm not going to be here either. Because I think it's safe to say John Allen's not going to ever play for the Commanders again. That's not speculation, but I think that's probably safe to say that, just from a cap hit standpoint.
Definitely.
And you have these two guys are playing on rookie deals. I mean, come on, man. So, yeah, bro. It does a lot when you see the young guys out there balling and getting it done.
They're getting pressure from the inside and the outside. Boy, does having Dorrance Armstrong back help, because even when not getting sacks, he's always near the quarterback. He rushes with such great efficiency, with such great discipline. He doesn't give up the edge. We had a problem with guys freelancing. They wanted to go for the quarterback, but sometimes your job is to just not let the quarterback get outside you. Caleb was trying to get to the outside, and we took it away.
He was trying to get there all day. It was almost like he just was a magnet to the sidelines. But Dorrance Armstrong is another guy going back in this offseason when they signed him. I said that, what he had 8.5 last year in Dallas, and that was platooning and not having
part-time.
He had like 60% reps. Now that he's going to be up in the 85, 90 range rep-wise, I expect him to surpass 8.5 sacks. And I called for Dorrance to get 11 sacks this year. I don't know if he's going to get to 11
because he missed a couple games.
Yep. He's missed a couple games, but when he's on the field, he's a difference maker. I mean, he's a guy that can get to your quarterback, but he's also a pretty good run defender as well. So he's a guy, that is, definitely one of those valuable Adam Peters pickups. It works.
Adam Peters cooked up in this offseason. The main thing when you look at this Washington defense, you see discipline. Guys are starting to tackle. We're going to take the DeAndre Swift play out of the situation. Guys can tackle. Guys are disciplined. Look at the tackle Benjamin St-Juste made on the 4th and short when they ran the screen pass to his side. The secondary did work. Yes, they started to fold late, but we're not going to act like they didn't keep Roma Dunze to 41 yards, Keenan Allen to 39 yards. The number one receiver for the Chicago Bears, DJ Moore, who Bears fans told us all week was so much better than Terry, had 2 catches for 27 yards. Did he even play on Sunday late?
So let me, so let me even go further. 2 catches for 27 yards. One of those catches was 27 yards.
Yep.
Because before that, it was 1 catch for 0 yards. I don't even know that could happen in a game. Like, seriously.
Yep, because he caught a screen and St-Juste was on his ass.
Right on down. So, again, not to throw shade at another local, in DJ, but listen, man, you got to give credit where credit is due. I know Benji had the pass interference at the end of the game, so to speak. That aided Chicago in scoring. But I mean, I always say if a guy's there, if he's battling, he was battling Keenan. I mean, if you're there, I'm okay with that. You know, it could have been a questionable call because there was a lot of horrible calls in that game, by the
If
way.
he didn't do that, Keenan Allen probably scores. So it's pick your poison.
It's pick your poison, absolutely. So it worked out in the long run. It really did. But I see improvement, and I think that's the other thing, DJ. That I think when you see the DJ Moores and you see Keenan and the Dunze, and you're expecting for the secondary to get lit up. Well, I got to tell you, Rio, man, we got to give credit to the coaching staff because these guys are being coached. They're improving on a week to week basis. Their techniques improving, their communications improving, and those are all things that we never saw here. You just knew the player was bad. They weren't getting coached to be put in a better position. This is like guys are really going to work here and doing film study, and the coaches are really making these guys have fun on the field, play their games.
Yep. And it's fun to watch, man. It's fun to watch this unit come together because we were saying for so long, we have to get pass rush because we can't trust the secondary. The secondary has been stepping up. They played a very good receiving core and pretty much shut them out. Not to mention, our linebackers are not letting tight ends do anything on this football team right now. Cole Kmet had one catch for 14 yards on Sunday. So we held a stable of Odunze, Allen, Moore, and Cole Kmet to like 110 yards through the four of those guys, man. We shut them out. Obviously, they did run on us, and we're going to talk about DeAndre Swift in a second. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the safeties because me and Jalen were talking in the chat. Shout out Jayden, B&G. Make sure y'all sub up the guy. Quan Martin is low-key like the best player on the defense. He's good, man.
He's phenomenal. And they talked about him. You know you're good when the coaches, when they come in, he's one of the guys that you can't wait to work with. And Dan Quinn and Joe Witten, all of them said it. Like he fits what they're looking for. A guy that'll come up and knock your helmet to the side, but a guy that's also one of the smartest players out on the field at all times. He's never out of position. And I think, to see him and now Jeremy Chin is balling, it's just, they're putting a little bit of fear in guys coming across the field.
They sure are.
Those guys will put their hat on you. And so Quan is definitely if he's not having a Pro Bowl season, I don't know what you look for, because I do think he's a fringe Pro Bowler right now.
I know when I saw him flip his hips and redirect to get down the field on the Caleb deep ball, I said, oh, we have not had a free safety here in a minute that can do that. Wow, he's good. Jeremy Chin has finally found himself as a consistent, strong safety. The pieces are coming together. Boy, did Adam Peters have himself a wonderful first off season. Culture setters, veterans, and seat fillers that fit exactly what the principles of the coordinators do here. We cannot say enough about what Adam Peters did in his first year as the GM, but we did get ran on Sunday. DeAndre Swift, you could say there was a holding on the play. He broke like 3 or 4 tackles, and while we were tackling consistently most of the day, Caleb ran on us a little bit, and DeAndre Swift went crazy on us on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know if it was so much of a concerted effort to keep those receivers and their tight end from going off and getting off, but Chicago, for my money, hadn't run the ball enough leading up to that game, and they made it a point, to do that. So I don't know if it was take one thing away from Chicago and dare the other to beat you, which it wasn't doing for most of the game until the big run. So if you take away that big run, nothing really changed for Chicago. They got bottled up. I mean, because I think it was a 71-yarder, if I'm not mistaken.
It was something crazy. Yeah.
So if you look at his overall body of work, 126 yards, I think 70 came on that. So that's basically keeping him to 50, 56 yards. I mean, I can live with that, knowing that Caleb only had 130. That's less than 200 yards total offense.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, yeah, they ran, but to me, you take away that one play where the run's truly effective at all times, and I would say they weren't. So I can live with that. If they go up to New York this week, and you got to keep your eye on Neighbors, of course. but there's really no tight end in New York. And then your running back's Devin Singletary, so who's decent. I don't think he's as good.
Tracy, the rookie, Tyrone Tracy, he's looking all right, but he did get banged up last night.
He did get banged up, but to me, he's like that short yardage bruiser that's going to get there. Again, you pick your poison in this game. It's less poison to pick because Chicago had a lot of talent. And again, for those Bears fans out there harping on that, like, nah, man, I think on most given Sundays, you put all those guys on Chicago's from their skill set spots up against most teams around the league, Chicago might win that as far as talent.
I think so too, man. On paper, they got it, but Washington is holding it down. How would you overall grade the defensive performance from Sunday?
Oh man, I'm giving them a B+. The only reason I'm not giving them an A or an A-, even though they were close to getting that, was because they kind of faded down the stretch. And I understand they were tired. They really were. But yeah, a couple pass interferences, a couple things here or there. You got to clean that stuff up, especially if you're trying to get to another level. And I think that's the conversation that's going to start being had now, is that we know this is a playoff caliber football team.
Sure is.
But now the conversation to clean up certain things on that defense is to become a championship caliber team. And that's the next progression and next stage. So I give them a B+, and it was a solid B+. They had a really good football game.
I'm gonna give them the A-, because I like with these guys, we never know what to expect when the defense is trotted out on that field. And they shut that offense out and down for about 49 minutes on Sunday. They made the number 1 overall pick look like Sam Darnold's younger part of his career. He was seeing ghosts all over that Halloween field on Sunday, and he looked miserable. He looked visibly disturbed for most of the day, and that was the job of Washington's defense. I'm giving them an A-. Definitely something to build upon. They're finding their rhythm. If we can get that type of defensive performance when we play a playoff caliber football team, boy, this team could go somewhere right now.
Oh man, listen, when you look at the landscape in the NFC right now, I've watched Minnesota closely the past couple of weeks. I don't see any reason why Washington can't compete with them, if not beat them. The only team right now that just looks like a freight train is Detroit. What I expect for them to go into Detroit and win? Well, I can tell you this. You got number 5. And because you have yourself one at the most important position in football, you have a chance to go into Detroit and play with them. Do they beat them? That's a whole nother story. And hopefully we can have that conversation later in the year. It'd be great to be able to talk about that, wouldn't it?
But it would be very.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of good football teams, and there's a lot of teams in the NFC that are playoff caliber in the NFC at least. You look at the whole NFC West. I mean, everybody in there is almost at 4-4. Rams are 3-4. So, yeah, man, why not Washington? I don't think anyone's thinking now that this team has no shot to be a player as far as the playoffs. I think people are thinking that now and starting to believe it as well, just like most of the fans have already started to believe that here locally.
First time in 16 years they've been 6-2. I've never in my life seen a 7-2 football team, and we got the New York Giants up next on that list. Man, it feels good. I'm looking at the landscape of the conference. It's the Detroit Lions, us, and a bunch of uncertainty. We're going to find out exactly what Washington is when they play their 2 games against the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. But those 4 games, the Giants, the Steelers, the Titans, the Saints, the Falcons, I see 9 winnable games on this list. All it takes from this point, Lake, to break the 11-win streak is 5-4. 5-4 in your so 5-4 would be a step back. It would be a regression. 5-4 through your last 9, and Washington ends the drought as the longest drought without an 11-win season, man. It feels like that's an easy cash at this point, right?
Yeah, man. Let me go ahead going out here and say it, because I said this football team, as we said before, was 9 wins bare minimum. I'm saying right now they're winning 12 games this year.
Ooh, 12-5 in year one of the startup with new everything and a rookie quarterback. Man, I told you we're going to be Michael Jackson at the Grammys at NFL honors if that's the case. But we got the Giants, who was a former Achilles heel of this team. We've dispelled so many past myths this year. We can't beat the Giants. We can't win in primetime. They can't beat a team with a winning record. The black uniforms are cursed. It seems like every week we're checking something off the pre-PTSD box. How are you feeling going into this Giants game this week?
This will be another box to check too, because this will be the first time with this new, new coaching staff, new GM, Jayden, and pretty much a lot of the players on the roster. This will be the first time that they face the team twice.
Yep.
So now to be able to see what the Giants do to try to combat Jayden and the rest of the Commanders' offense will be something. It'll be interesting to see how they use Malik Neighbors against Joe West's defense. So for me, I'm looking forward to seeing what adjustments we make to the Giants, because let's face it, 7 field goals turn into 7 points every time you go down the field. That's a 40-plus piece on them. So I'm looking to see, is there an emotional letdown after this game from Sunday against the Bears? This is a Giants team that you should beat, and you should beat them handily. You should. And I expect that. So I want to see not just Washington go up to New York and win in a place that they've been tormented for a long time. I want to see them go up there and lay one down on the Giants to kind of let them know this isn't a fluke and you guys are light years behind us as far as an organization right now. That's what I want to see.
Statement game, set the tone. Divisional games can always be mucked up. Divisional games you always can throw out everything you know about both teams. Ask the Baltimore Ravens about the Cleveland Browns, who came in and won that game on Sunday. But like you said, it's the first time we're going to see this new regime face a team twice. And I know that Giants game is still stuck in the back of our minds, like what we really could have done in that game. Meanwhile, Daniel Jones has like 1 touchdown at MetLife Stadium over the last couple years. So you cannot suddenly let this guy wake up from the dead. He looks like he's on his final legs of his NFL career as a starter. It has to be Washington that puts the punctuation mark on his career, considering we were the team that got him paid. We're like the only team he ever produced against in the league. But I feel good about this one. I feel 2-possession win upcoming, and I feel 7-2 for the first time in my entire fan life coming up this Sunday. Per usual, thank you for coming on the channel for another Victory Tuesday. Whether they win or lose, you're going to come here. We're going to have this conversation. It's going to be a good time every Tuesday. Let the folks know where they can find you on our way out.
I appreciate that. Please, please, please. You got a great fan base that watches this. I do want to shout out. I had a fan of yours at the stadium. I was invited out to a tailgate. So I walked out of the stadium before the game to a tailgate. And I had a young kid. He probably couldn't be, more than 20 years old. He's probably a teen. But he was like, "You Lake Lewis?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "Man, I love seeing you on Tuesday on Rio Robinson's show. That's my guy." So I was like, "What's up, man?" So a lot of the younger fans, that are starting to come towards me, and I appreciate that. That's coming from you. So with that said, check out the podcast. It's the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. You can subscribe to it on YouTube, or you can subscribe to it in audio form via Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all that. And then, of course, you can check me out like this Sunday. Be doing post game on ABC up from New York, from MetLife after the game, hopefully after a W. So you can check me out there. And then, of course, you can follow me on social media at Lake Lewis Jr., and that's on all formats.
Y'all heard the man. 6-2 for the first time in 16 years. 4-0 at home for the first time in 19 years. Let's avoid the divisional trap game this week versus the New York Giants. Me and Lake will be back next Tuesday. Until next time, hail to the Washington Commanders. We are out.